hockey fans, are you ready to brave the wild? With me, your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Owygen. Brave the Wild is available on all of your favorite podcasting apps. I thank each and every one of you once and always for downloading and listening to the show. And of course, I thank Dylan and Kyle for having me on board the Hockey Podcast Network. Always appreciate you so very much. It's a great pleasure to be back on board with you once again today. The sun is shining. There's snow everywhere now, so winter's back, at least in the Twin Cities, and the Minnesota Wild are, well, I guess they're back in the playoff hunt. We'll see how things go. The Minnesota Wild, a perfect 3-0 this past week. Well, all right then, 3-0. 3-0 it is. Hopefully, this was a very impressive week. Let's be honest. It's been a 4-game win streak for the Minnesota Wild, and you could argue the most complete 4 games of the season. Okay, except for the Chicago game. So the three most complete games of the season took place this past week. Yeah, the Blackhawks game, complete game, huh? Complete, whatever it was. Fill in your swear word. Well, you had Fleury night. I'm not a huge ceremony person, but good job and all that. The Wild did a good job, and Fleury, an amazing emotional night, so good for him. And against his former club, of course, that was the whole idea. And yes, of course, Sid, the not kid anymore, scored on Marc-Andre Fleury. They won their 3 cups together. Of course, Marc-Andre Fleury was not the starting goalie for 2 of those, so it is what it is, because he struggled during the playoffs for some reason. And Matt Murray was fantastic. Andy Murray, sorry. Wild beat the Pittsburgh Penguins 3-2. Golden Knights, arguably the most complete game of the entire season in Vegas. An incredible game against a healthy Vegas Golden Knights team. Because Aiden Hill is playing better than any goalie in the league, pretty much. 5-3, or 5-2-3 anyway. And then got the job done versus Arizona. Had a goal disallowed for interference. It was basically 29-29, if you know what I mean. The Arizona 29 against our 29. The guy with the ceremony on Saturday. So it was a fun week, and Friday night. God, I'm losing my mind. Friday night was a nice night for Marc-Andre Fleury and the Minnesota Wild, and it's their second win in a row and all that cute stuff. So the Wild are a perfect 4-0 since the All-Star break, despite the fact the Blackhawks game was, it was okay. It was okay. 3 games to review, 3 games to preview. Buffalo Sabres. These are Saturday night against the Buffalo Sabres, Saturday afternoon, 4 p.m. So if you're door dashing or something on Saturday, get home a little bit early, I guess, or figure out something. Monday at 1. What's the occasion on Monday? Is it President's Day, maybe? Must be. Yeah, I guess so. February the 19th, Vancouver Canucks in Xcel Energy Center, and then the 20th, Winnipeg Jets, so back-to-back. So Canadian back-to-back. We go from, but it's not too far. But it's not too far anyway. We're not going from Vancouver to Winnipeg. We're going from St. Paul to Winnipeg, which is about, I don't know, maybe a third of the distance, if even that. Winnipeg is kind of far north. You get the idea. Winnipeg, definitely a tough team. Vancouver, a tough team. That's going to be very interesting. Then we go out west into next week's show against Edmonton and Seattle, a back-to-back on Friday and Saturday. So we'll talk about that when we get there. So it's going to be like 3 games, and 3 games looks like in the next few shows here. So that's cool for me. I'm not complaining at all. 4 can be a little bit tough, and 2 is kind of, too easy and too quiet, I guess. But obviously it's going to be kind of a attempt to be more of a topical show than just game reviewy, if you know what I mean. Matt Boldy's absolutely been surging, and it's not March yet, so that's encouraging. Matt Boldy, a player a lot of us have been frustrated with, kind of Charlie Coyle-like, if you know what I mean. Not as productive as you'd expect. And it's like, I don't know, you'd think he's going to be better. Matt Boldy's now at 40 points on the season, 46 games, 19 goals, 21 assists. But what is different here, and what's made a huge, it's made a huge difference, is what I'm trying to say. It's been a huge help in the grand scheme of things, is the lines. Which can make John Hynes look like a better coach than Dean Evason. As far as I'm concerned, he sort of is, at least at this time, because Dean Evason was kind of set in his ways. So he's like, well, I know these players, and we do what we do, that kind of thing. We keep doing what we're doing, that type of thing. This is how we handle things. Well, we have a top line now that does not consist of Mats Zuccarello. That's right. Jule Eriksson Ek, the top line center, which probably should have been forever. But in between Zuccarello and Kaprizov, it wasn't really the best match in the world. Now it's Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boldy, and that has been a fantastic top line. Second line, Marco Rossi. Marcus Johansson, Mr. Invisible, of course, except for certain games when he feels like it. And Matt Zuccarello, and that line's okay. Ryan Hartman is in the role he should be in. He's an outstanding third-line center. He is a meh second-line center, and he's a very meh top-line center. Of course, yes, he did get lots of points with Zuccarello and Kaprizov years ago, but that was, again, years ago. Jake Lucchini's been centering the fourth line. Connor Dewar's moved to the left wing, so that's interesting, but Dewar can play center as well. It's kind of been a back and forth, and Vinny Lettieri has been fantastic this year, to be quite fair. Yes, obviously strong relations to Lou Nanne to a point. He actually looks like him a little bit. Honestly, you can see Lou Nanne and Vinny Lettieri, and he's been a nice player. The minute the Wild signed him, I had a feeling like he's going to wind up having a bigger role than he's had on other teams in the past. And obviously he was a pretty good gopher too. Matt Boldy, coming out of Massachusetts, he is on pace for 65 points, which would actually be a career high, believe it or not. He's on pace for exactly 31 goals just like last year, and now 34 assists. So 65 points for Matt Boldy. We'll see if that continues to move up. It took a crazy surge in March last year where I called the episode The March of Boldy. So it was awesome. And it really was a March of Boldy. It was obviously, what am I saying? It was absolutely a fantastic month, but then here comes April. Okay, he's not as good. Kaprizov's back. Oh, darn, Big Brother's back. So now everything's going to kind of drop off a bit, unfortunately. So, and it did way more than it should have as far as I'm concerned. So that's obviously a frustration at the end of the day. But no, that top line has been a huge difference. And it's nice to see John Hynes kind of have the gumption, or whatever the word is, the gumption, the balls, the cojones, so on and so forth, to go out there and, shovel the lines to a point that certain guys are not together that have been together forever. So I think you should do that. I think it's a good idea at the end of the day. I always love looking at the projections of players, like how good they're going to do and such, how good they will do if things kind of stay on course. Marco Rossi's on course for 45 points, 22 goals, 23 assists. So could be worse, certainly could be better. I thought he was going to get closer to 60, but that's okay. At least 50, something like that, and he still might. So he finally scored again this past week. Again, obviously been a bit on the quiet side, unfortunately. Other topics we can think about, obviously the Marc-Andre Fleury. The Marc-Andre Fleury night was great. Good for him. He got this 1,000th game stick finally, and it was a goalie stick instead of the other ones that you normally see. So obviously fitting and appropriate. Just kind of, you just kind of get a chuckle when you think about that, because goalies don't get 1,000 games usually very, very often. So it's pretty rare. Marc-Andre Fleury obviously played a lot of games for Pittsburgh in the past. Back when goalies could still play like 65, 70 games, where nowadays coaches and organizations and such try to spell the goalies a little bit more, which I think is a better idea, because look what happened to some of our better goaltenders over the years. So certainly a frustration in the past with people like Dubnyk, who got overused. Backstrom got overused. So that was obviously a massive frustration over the course of time. So that's where getting 1,000 goal games for a goaltender is probably not going to happen as often as you'd like. Brock Faber's still on course for 50 points. He has just been unbelievable, obviously, and he's very much in conversation for the Calder Trophy. Even possibly, as Bedard comes back. So that's going to be great. Right now, yep, and my math was right. Faber's on pace for 51 points. 6 goals, 45 assists is what he's on pace for. He's at 33 points at the moment. Did have a couple assists the other day, which put him at on pace for 52 points. But with nothing last night, it dropped to 51, but still over 50. That is a huge number, and very close to a regular season record for a defenseman for the Minnesota Wild, which is held by Suter at 53. So, wow. Ryan Suter, the one everybody's like, well, we got to pay him like $100 million and keep him for 13 years. And, oh, shoot, now we don't want to keep him because, they're both getting older, Parise and Suter. And, especially Suter's not really what we thought he was in a lot of ways. Like we thought he's this, leader and everything and this good guy. And he really kind of wasn't. And you heard all these, chirpings from other players that played with him in Nashville and such. It's just like, well, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas players are kind of like, even though he's not like maximizing in minutes, because in Dallas, you're not going to get what you want as much. I'm sorry, at this stage of your career. Not because Dallas is so much, stricter with their players, but because you're not part of the, you're not one of the pillars of the team. I'm sorry, you're not. You're a piece. You're helping, and thank you, Brian, for your services. Kirill Kaprizov's on pace for about 80 points. So kind of like upper 70s at the end of the day. So obviously, I think I'll get off the projections and such. Pardon me. I have another question I'd like to offer. I'm going to probably save it for a minute. Hopefully I don't forget and blank out, but I have it written. I don't think I'm going to turn it into a poll, because that might just kind of be, kind of annoying, I guess, for some of you out there. The Wild, though, over the Pittsburgh Penguins 3-2 on Friday night, February the 9th. Crazy how quick time flies. It's just like that. Like, man, it's already Thursday again. It's crazy. But yeah, Boldy, who did absolutely nothing versus the Chicago Blackhawks. He was like terrible. A lot of people were saying, is it time to scratch him? I mean, that was a conversation just last week. Is it time to healthy scratch Matt Boldy? Well, I guess not. And thank you, Mr. Hynes, for not doing that, I suppose, and getting him to kind of get his head out of that place, if you can guess where that is. Opened the game with a goal versus the Pittsburgh Penguins, his 17th of the year. Kirill Kaprizov and Faber factoring in on the assist on the power play, as again the Wild power play has been significantly better for a while. Jonas Brodin definitely got a few goals this past week, and good for him. Jonas Brodin factoring in goals, like, it's crazy, and he's been stepping up and such, so might be a little bit of a different approach here compared to earlier, and this different approach is certainly helping at the moment. Boldy with an assist on that one as well, along with Eriksson Ek, as those guys obviously. The chemistry's there. Kirill Kaprizov, Boldy, and Eriksson Ek. It's definitely there. And again, they're also factoring in goals scored by defensemen as well. Kaprizov with Bogosian and Brodin, obviously, again, getting the puck on net. A goal that was kind of semi-controversial, but not really. At least Mike Sullivan thought it was controversial. The rest of us were like, what's he so mad about? I don't know. Maybe I'm an idiot and I don't know anything, and that's fine. I've been called worse. Bogosian broke a defender's stick on the Pittsburgh Penguins, broke a defender's stick on his shot. Absolutely powerful release, which is nice. And the puck got to Kaprizov, and he was able to finish. I believe Mr. Sullivan was thinking it was a high stick. It was directed from a high stick, but I don't know. I just don't. I'm not really sure what he was upset about, but the goal did count. You could read his lips, effing BS. You can figure out what those words mean. Yeah, words that I use all the time, unfortunately, when I shouldn't, but I do, especially during the Super Bowl. Yeah, I'm not happy at all about that. Matt Boldy, I agree with his statement. I think it was after the Vegas game where everybody in this Patrick Mahomes GOAT talk. Pump your brakes, folks. It's not because Patrick Mahomes isn't on pace for being a top 4 player in NFL history or anything, but pump your brakes. 7 Super Bowls by Tom Brady are not going to be easy to pass. I'm sorry. Take it easy, folks. That's all I got to say. It's just, just because you like somebody and they're doing so well, whatever, settle the bleep down. Let's cut it out with the GOAT talk. Obviously, the LeBron and Michael Jordan GOAT talk, I'm sick and tired of it. Just go away. Seriously. Yes, I have an opinion on who's the GOAT, and I'm it's Michael Jordan. Sorry. Anyhow, obviously, Gretzky and Crosby, right? Yeah, right. It's Gretzky. Come on. Let's move off of that right away. I'm sorry. I apologize. This game was actually before that, of course. Kirill Kaprizov, though that goal did end up winning the game. Marc-Andre Fleury looked absolutely fantastic down the stretch. Looked like a younger Fleury. Looked like the Fleury that could win the Stanley Cup in 2009 and all that. Sliding all over the place. Yes, Crosby did score to tie it up 2-2 very early in the third. Very, very early in the third. Minnesotan Jake Gensel, who, well, we'll see. Maybe he'll wind up with the surging and NHL Stanley Cup favorite Edmonton Oilers. We'll see if that trade takes place. That would be pretty epic, actually, if it did. Yes, the Edmonton Oilers are the favorites right now to win the Stanley Cup, even though they're not even in first place in their division. Because, there's a lot of talent in that Pacific Division. And the Pacific Division won the Stanley Cup last year. Let's not forget that. So we'll see if we'll see what happens. It'd be nice to see Edmonton go on a big playoff run. It would be. And not get swept this time around in the Western Conference Finals. Unfortunately, we do know what that feels like around here. unfortunately, our one appearance wound up that way. But a nice solid win versus the Penguins. Vegas Golden Knights, the defending Stanley Cup champions, second place in the Pacific Division behind Vancouver. Edmonton Oilers are third, and breathing down everyone's neck. Obviously, they had that 16-game win streak. Vegas Golden Knights of all teams were the team that set end the win streak. So good for them. And yeah, it's a fitting team to end the win streak. The defending champion, and the team that's pretty much dominated that division pretty much since they got to the NHL, for the most part anyway. 5-3 win in Las Vegas. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your feature presentation, not only of this show, but maybe of the whole season so far.
And now, our feature presentation.
This was a hockey game, at least if you're a Minnesota Wild fan, for the most part, I would have to dang say. Matt Boldy was fantastic. He was aggressive. He was getting the puck on net. He scored his 18th goal of the season. Faber got multiple assists, and that's when the 50-point conversation came back. Brock Faber on pace for 52 points after this game, which had us all very excited. One of my favorite players in the league. If I have a personal Mount Rushmore of favorite players currently in the league, Mark Stone is on it, absolutely. Joel Eriksson might be on it as well. I think he might be, actually. 23rd goal of the season. He's been wonderful as well, getting the empty net goal. Looked like Brandon Hamel almost injured Petro, so that was interesting. Petro's one of those guys. He's like a 1,000-game type of guy as well. There's, obviously one of the Mount Rushmores of Vegas, since I'm talking about that mountain over and over and over again. Marchessault scores 22 seconds into the game, which had us all like, okay, sure. Well, I think we know who's going to win this one. No, thankfully the Minnesota Wild came back and got the job done. Interesting power play unit, but I suppose it's been done about 550,000 times already. Ryan Hartman, Kirill Kaprizov, and Zuccarello, but Zuccarello getting his 9th goal of the year. Yeah, it's been done about 50,000 times already with those guys, but that's okay. The top line, the real top line of the Minnesota Wild, Ek, Boldy, and Kaprizov factoring to make it 2-1. Ek with his 22nd goal of the year. Again, that empty netter was 23rd as Brenner DeHame. Again, nice play on Petro, but I don't know. I almost looked like he injured the guy a little bit. I don't know if a penalty could have been called for that one on center ice, but Joel Eriksson kind of sliding all the way down. I called it a slam dunk, I guess is what it is, or just an empty net goal. But Rossi finally getting a goal again. Faber and Boldy. You got to love seeing all those nice young names kind of factoring together on that one. That was awesome. Nice to see Rossi, who'd been a bit quiet. In fact, very quiet. And that's why he's on pace for, 45 points instead of 50-something, which he was earlier in the season. But Rossi's certainly been there. He's certainly a factor. He's still he's absolutely a top 6 forward for the Minnesota Wild. And again, obviously Boldy, awesome performance to say the least. And the Wild escape in easily probably the most complete game of the season. A lot of us thought this is a team that could go on a Western Conference final run possibly in this game. It looked like a team that could do that. Obviously, it's just one game. There was a very fluky goal There was a very fluky goal along the way as well. Who was that? I believe it was Michael Amadio. Yeah, that was the flukiest of fluky goals. The puck shot kind of off of, it bounced off of, this is from the side basically, bounced off of Faber's stick and somehow got in behind the back of Philip Gustafsson. That was a pretty entertaining one, to say the least. Again, and then it's 2-2. It's yeah, we're still going to lose. And it's no, we're not. Great third period by the Wild, and the second period, obviously, hanging in there, so to speak, for the most part. Both teams getting their chances, but not finishing. But then you had Rossi, Boldy score, Stone get the Golden Knights within one goal with half of the period remaining. But then Ak able to finish with the empty net goal. So now we will move quickly on to the Arizona game. Certainly not as exciting as the Vegas Golden Knights game, but a nice solid finish at the end of the day. Very nice solid finish. Joel Eriksson now 24 goals on the year, again with that power play, playing together with his main line mates anyway. 24th goal of the year, 21st assist for Boldy, and 30th assist for Kaprizov. You gotta love that. And again, Brodin stepping up again from Connor Dewar at the end of the day. Nice pass by Dewar from the side, kind of a cross-ice pass a bit over to Brodin for his 3rd goal of the season. Logan Cooley would get his 7th goal, and he'd be the only guy to score in the game. Again, a goal that would have tied it up early on by the Arizona Coyotes was disallowed for interference. So that's kind of how that goes. Unfortunately for them, Boldy with his 19th goal of the year. Feels like he should have 30 already, but no, at least this past week. But then again, before this past week, you'd have thought Boldy has like 6 goals this year. But that was an exciting goal for the most part. It was one of those kind of, unfortunately, a goal where it looked like the goalie had it stopped. But for him, unfortunately, the puck just kept moving, underneath there, 5-hole. And Boldy was able to finish, well, as luck would have it, you could say puck luck, ultimately, at the end of the day, made it 3-1. And Arizona would get stopped time and time again by Marc-Andre Fleury, who's definitely been surging and has definitely been fantastic the past week or so. And so far, he's been the best. He's been the better goalie of the two this year. His numbers aren't spectacular because he did get shelled a couple times this season. Fleury is 10-9 on the season, goals against average of 2.83. Save percentage just above 90. Rich Gustafson is just below 90, but the goals against average 3.19. Oof. So still struggling at the end of the day, or still kind of trying to, it's like you got a bunch of Fs at the beginning of the quarter or beginning of the semester or whatever the heck your report card is. Well, the year, we'll just say a bunch of Fs, and now you're still, even though your grades have been much better the past month plus of the, the last month plus or so, you're still carrying that D plus average. So come on, guy, let's go. Maybe D minus-ish. You're at least kind of in a passing grade, but I don't know. Maybe Gustafson still gets an F for the year. 319 is not good. Nope. At the end of the day, as mean as that might sound, Jules Eriksson is having an outstanding year, and hopefully he continues to, hopefully he's able to stay healthy. Obviously, last year was just such a freak thing, and you just hope and pray that kind of thing just doesn't happen again, doesn't pop up again on Jules Eriksson. What a damn shame. I mean, Eck would have had a 60-point season last year. He was on pace for like 60. I think he was on pace for almost 70 points at the time. It was absolutely nuts, and then he gets hurt. Eck is on course. I keep saying case, and it's pissing me off. He's on course for 68 points this season. 37 goals for Jules Eriksson Ek. Years ago, just even thinking about that was like, 37 goals, Jules Eriksson Ek? Are you crazy? He'll be lucky if he gets 30, like ever. 25, hopefully. Yeah, 37. What do you think of that? Imagine if he's able to up the assists a little bit, especially now with his teammates of Boldy and Kaprizov, and then still scoring goals. He might be 75 points. What do you think of that? 75, maybe even, let's stay away from 80, but 75 would be incredible. I think Jules Eriksson could be an all-star in this league, especially if he continues to be the a Selke candidate in this league, top defensive forward in the NHL. So pretty damn cool. The other topic I wanted to bring up before I wrap up segment number 1, it's one of those deals where, two aging defensemen, right? They're kind of aging, but one's playing better than the other. And it's kind of the kind of thought of 2 years ago, you'd be like, wait, who? What? What are you talking about? Get out of here. Our great captain, Jared Spurgeon, or Bogosian, who would you rather have? Yeah, at this stage, they're both in their, one's 33, one's 34. I'd rather have Bogosian right now, especially at his money. I'd rather have Bogosian, honestly. And I think he's contributed more, really, compared to what Spurgeon's contributed the past X amount of time. And yes, he's hurt, but getting hurt counts for something. If you're always hurt, I'm sorry, eventually that kind of counts for something. It's not just you're being a jackass and kicking a guy when he's down. Now, okay, at least we got some cap relief for this year because of the long-term reserve type of injury. But at the same time, 3 more seasons. 3 more seasons at $7.5 million. $7.5 million. Not 4, like the other guys that we're frustrated with, like Foligno and such, and Hartman. And also another one that's been brought up many times in other podcasts, and they're right. They're absolutely right when they bring it up. Freddie Gaudreau, he doesn't do anything. Freddie Gaudreau doesn't do anything, and we're committed to him until the summer of 2028 without being able to move him if we can. If we can, that'd be great. He has a, like a no-trade clause, but it's not like, it's limited. It's not like, you can't do anything. Yeah, modified, 15 teams. So it's like kind of half of the league, sort of, basically, about half of the league. So it's not like, Freddie Gaudreau has that much control. So he could get traded if we're able to get him to one of the teams. And I don't know, and if one of these teams actually wants him, please, please, Dean Evison, resurface in the NHL. Please, Dean, because we know you want him. Please, Dean, resurface. Freddie Gaudreau isn't that expensive, but it's the commitment and all that. And you don't really put $2 million players in the AHL, especially when they're signed for until the summer of 2028. So stuff like that. I kind of already went down a different rabbit hole, and I apologize. Where Bogosian, obviously, is not even making $1 million, and Spurgeon's making, 7.5. So, of course, I'd rather have Bogosian right now if I had a choice between the two. And it's like, well, that's sacrilegious. That's the captain. He's the captain, and it's Jared Spurgeon. He's one of the, most historical figures in Wild history. But I don't know. Do we have that many historical figures that make you, that excited? So, at the end of the day, I'd rather have Bogosian at this point. And I know that might be insulting and mean in some people's eyes, but it must be said. It must be said. I'd rather just have Zach Bogosian if you're going to put, and then just have him in that limited role that he's in. He can play top four sometimes. He can play bottom two sometimes. And then you have that money to, obviously you're going to need it to pay Faber possibly. And then another roster spot for a Damon Hunt, so on and so forth. I'd rather do that if we could. And then the captain becomes maybe at this stage either Faber or Joel Eriksson or Brodin. But one of those, I think. Those are probably your captains, like potential C captains. And then, Foligno's an alternate. Yeah. And Kaprizov absolutely is an alternate. But the other guys could be candidates for the C. Kaprizov has been a pretty good alternate after a slow start to the season. I think he's become better as, I think he looks more focused as an alternate captain now. He's got that serious look and appreciate what he's been doing. Probably at the beginning of the year, he was pressing too much, like, oh, I'm an alternate captain now. The pressure's on, blah, blah, blah. But we'll move on from that. So definitely an awesome week. You can't say it wasn't. It was an awesome week. Am I confident that this is a team that can do something in the playoffs? Like make the playoffs? Yeah, it's possible. Do something in the playoffs? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see for that at the end of the day. But I'm not ready for that just yet. I wish I was. I wish I was ready to say we could go all the way. But of course I'm not ready for that. The Mike McDonough Award winner for this week is Matt Boldy. Matt Boldy gets it. Marc-Andre Fleury, a very strong honorable mention. He almost should get it. You can almost give it to both of them. The James Shepard Memorial, let's go with Freddie Gaudreau. He doesn't do anything. He's invisible. And I don't know, it's extremely frustrating and it gets old so quick. Freddie Gaudreau will be your James Shepard Memorial popcorn maker. He should probably be making popcorn right now at $2 million a year. A $2 million popcorn maker. It's expensive, but I guess there's other popcorn makers that could be, even more expensive out there. Let me tell you, there's quite a few. Spurgeon says, I'm not doing that. I'm trying to recover. So yes, understand. I'm not trying to kick Spurgeon when he's down. It's just, even when he was healthy, sort of, healthier than not being able to play, that kind of healthy. He wasn't that good then either. It's just a fact. Spurgeon hasn't been good for about 2.5 years now. And I don't know, go ahead and slap me in the face and call me ignorant all you want. I guess I'm just stupid. With that said, we'll take a somebody's probably going to use that somewhere maybe. I guess we'll now we're going to take a quick break, come back and preview the upcoming games and look at the prospects, or prospects as some organizations might say. And we are back here on Brave the Wild. Segment number 2, going to look at the upcoming games and the prospects, of course. But first, let's hear from our sponsor, DraftKings. We know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the National Hockey League, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. And for the sake of consistency, let's look at the puck line at some of the matchups coming up tonight. Boston Bruins hosting the Seattle Kraken. Puck line for Seattle, minus 155, and plus 30 for the Boston Bruins. Buffalo Sabres are hosting Florida, so it looks like they're into, no, it's not a back-to-back. It's Thursday and then Saturday. But anyhow, they're a minus 192 hosting the Florida Panthers, or plus 160. Again, this is the puck line for the sake of consistency. If you want me to move it to the money line, let me know. Anybody out there, please. plus 200 for New Jersey hosting the LA Kings, have been dropping off, minus 245. That's a team the Wild would have to possibly pass to get to the postseason. Tampa and Colorado, wow, rematch of a Cup final, and obviously it's, obviously a pretty tough, pretty epic matchup there. Tampa plus 200 hosting the favored Colorado Avalanche, minus 245, so on and so forth. So Vancouver Canucks, one of the best teams in the league, plus 130, hosting the Detroit Red Wings, minus 155. So those are the puck lines, not all of the games, but a few notables that I decided to get to here, which is, of course, the way we roll. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with code THPN. That would be the Hockey Podcast Network, of course. New customers can bet just $5 in the NHL and get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2024. All rights reserved. So on we go to the upcoming games, starting off with the Buffalo Sabres. Not sure what I'm doing here, so I apologize. It's Buffalo Sabres. I like the Buffalo Sabres, but my God, are they ever going to freaking win anything? I don't know. But their goaltender's nice. I picked him up in fantasy, and he's been a huge help. 13-13 on the year in win percentage, but 2.5 when goals against average with 4. That's right, 4 shutouts on the season. Save percentage of 91.3. Their leading scorer in Buffalo is a player that used to be on the Gophers that we thought left too early, and I agree. He did leave too early. 1 bleeping year. Come on, man. No, 1 year. And then, took forever to really become a factor in the NHL. Well, he is now. Casey Middlestead is the leading scorer, for the Buffalo Sabres at 12 goals and 31 assists. If you have 12 goals is leading you in scoring, boy, you're in trouble. But they're in trouble anyway. 43 points on the year. So go Casey Middlestead, close to about 70 points a year or this season. He's kind of around Jules Ericsson's numbers, actually, in terms of total points. Alex Tuch, 36 points on the year. He's been a minor disappointment, unfortunately. Rasmus Dahlin is not a disappointment. He's outstanding. 14 goals, 27 assists. This is a defenseman, by the way. 41 points on the season. Casey Middlestead, though, a stat that I think stands out among every Buffalo player, he's a plus 13. A lot of Buffalo players are minus this and minus that, including Tage Thompson, who has not been as good as last year. Let me tell you, it was like the trade of the century in the favor of Buffalo after St. Louis won the Stanley Cup with with a certain center in Ryan O'Reilly. But, there's Minnesota ties everywhere with the Buffalo Sabres. It's going to be this way forever. Casey Middlestead from, Minnesota. What is he from? Eden Prairie and all that, and the Gophers. Alex Tuch, former Minnesota Wild prospect that we traded away too quickly to protect Matt Dumba. Great trade. Awesome. Kyle Oposo, former Gopher and Minnesota native, only 18 points on the season. Jordan Greenway, former Minnesota Wild, 17 points in 40 games. Meh, at best. Tyson Jost, former Minnesota Wild, 29 games and 4 whopping points. Absolutely spectacular. Just kicking ass. I'm telling you, just kicking ass. That's okay. I think we're all fine with that one. I do believe that's the end of the Minnesota ties in this particular lineup. Gosh, they've had like feels like 50 players, but sometimes I get the Sabres and the Islanders mixed up because the Islanders have about 20 players. Minnesota ties as well. Okay, not 20, but a lot. Buffalo's kind of like middle of the road in a lot of categories. Power play's 29th in the league, so the Wild are definitely ahead in that category. We're going to move a little bit there. We're going to get closer to where I want to be. This is an Exeter Energy Center also. It's not in Buffalo, so they're having to travel here. Owen Power out for a couple of weeks as of February 12th, pardon me, with a hand or wrist issue he suffered in practice. That sucks. Jack Quinn underwent surgery and is expected to be out approximately 8 weeks as of the end of January. All right. Matthias Samuelsson placed on injured reserve as of Jan 24. Minnesota, Marcus Foligno injured reserve for the 500th time now. Okay, I'm just kidding. I know, I'm naughty. February 11th, I'm sorry. Pat Maroon, injured reserve. Damn it. Out 6 weeks. I believe it's a back injury, right? As of Feb 5th. Damn, 6 weeks. Oof, yep, and he was a possible trade candidate. Well, not anymore. And Spurgeon is out for the year with, back and hip surgery. So, again, not trying to kick the guy when he's down, but you know what I mean? It's not like when he was healthy, he was good anyway. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he'll have a spectacular renaissance when he comes back. I just don't know. Goals, well, Buffalo's 19th, the Wild are 16th. Goals against Buffalo's 13th. Thank you, Luukkonen. The Wild are 21st. The Wild did not win because we never beat Buffalo, ever. November the 10th, 3-2 loss to the Sabres. Spectacular. This is the season wrap because it's the Eastern Conference. Power play, Buffalo's 29th. The Wild are 16th. Pretty good. And it's basically the exact opposite. Penalty kill, Buffalo's 15th, and the Wild are 29th. That's great. The Wild are 29th in penalty minutes, as in like the more the worse. Buffalo's 21st, so on and so forth. We talked about the players, we talked about this, we talked about that. I want to believe the Wild can continue to win, and why the heck shouldn't they? But I don't know, we don't beat Buffalo for some reason. We just don't. It doesn't matter who's there. If it's Jason Pominville or whoever, Jason Pominville with the weirdest angled goal you've ever seen. It's like, seriously, that went in. And the Wild ended up losing. Remember that? About, I don't know how many years it's been now. Oh, that was bullcrap. It was complete bullcrap. And that was actually not a good trade for either. Well, it wasn't a good trade for us. Pominville actually started finally playing good again. But I don't know what the heck. I think he had to go. Buffalo recently won 7-0 though, so wow, over the LA Kings. They've fallen off the face of the earth suddenly, and I don't think any of us feel too bad about that. Oh darn, I feel terrible for the Kings. Just terrible. It's depressing, man. Just kidding. But didn't the Kings beat Edmonton recently? Which is really weird. They beat Edmonton. Yeah. And then they lost 7-0 to the Kings. That's kind of funny. Or they beat the Kings 7-0. Pardon me. Buffalo beat the Kings 7-0. Yes. Buffalo did, not the Oilers. They will next week, though. No, I'm just kidding. I want to step out in faith and believe in a win. And if you're going to win a game this week, this might be it. Because the upcoming games are going to be really tough. Even though we've been playing Winnipeg pretty well, I'll step out in faith. Okay, the Wild win 3-2 over the Edmonton Oilers, the Buffalo Sabres. Oh, Lord. You guys are going to tear me to pieces. Or, no, I'm just kidding. Maybe that's why everybody's disappearing. I don't know where all of you gone. The numbers are okay, but I don't know. That's probably frustrated hockey fans when it comes to that. The Wild will win 3-2. The most likely guy to score will be, who do you think? Matt Boldy is going to score against the Buffalo Sabres, against Eastern Conference team and all that cute stuff. So why the heck not? East Coast team is a better way to put it. But now we get to play the Vancouver Canucks. Oh, goody. We get to play the Vancouver Canucks. And then the Winnipeg Jets, too. Wonderful. Just peachy. Early afternoon game against the Vancouver Canucks. Oh, that spells loss. It's got loss written all over it. Yep. Carson Soucy, injured reserve as of Jan 20th. That's right. Soucy's on Vancouver now. Nikita Zadorov, suspension. All right. Happy Valentine's Day, buddy. Right on the 14th there. Guillaume Brabo, yep, injured reserve long term, probably out for the year or whatever, going all the way back to October. Vancouver and Minnesota, it's been a low-scoring battle. Thatcher Demko versus Gustafsson or Fleury, basically. A shootout win for the Minnesota Wild on December 16th. I think the Wild were on a little bit of a run at the time, kind of catching up and all that with John Hynes taking over. 2-0 loss, uninspired, boring loss a week earlier or so in Vancouver. This one will be in the X. So I'd like to believe the Wild can win this one, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking Vancouver. Number 2 in the league in goals. Number 7 in goals against. Number 1 in assists. The only reason I'm bringing that up is because it's an impressive stat. Power play is 9th. Penalty kills 15th. Penalty minutes 19th. And they have the top shooting percentage in hockey. So their offense is basically top of the line with the, assists and everything. Vancouver is 3-2 in their last 5. They were shut out by Boston kind of recently. Interesting. And they beat 4-2. They beat Chicago 4-2, all on the road here, and they're still on the road. What a long road trip for the Vancouver Canucks. My goodness. Wow. Hopefully they'll get a home game coming up pretty soon. Quinn Hughes is somebody competing against Brock Faber for the Norris Trophy, apparently. Yeah, Norris. I don't know if Brock Faber's Norris Trophy, I know it's been brought up, but Quinn Hughes is probably going to win it. 12 goals, 54 assists. 54 assists. You heard that. That's crazy. 66 points. This is a defenseman, and this is the day after Valentine's Day. He's got 54 assists. That's crazy. I remember just seeing a defenseman with 60 or 70 points. You think like, holy mother of bleep. But but that's like the end of the year. This is mid-February, so still got some time to get to, I don't know, like 100 or something, or 90. That's crazy. Elias Pettersson is officially leading the club in scoring. Brock Besser's got the most goals, though, 30 on the season with 54 total points. Go, Brock. On pace for 82 points. Good for you. Elias Pettersson's on pace for higher, like 90 to 100-ish. 28 goals, 41 assists, 69 points. JT Miller, 23 goals, 43 assists, 69 points. Wow. So an incredibly great offense. And go Vancouver, I guess. They're not nearly as dislikable as they were in the past, when we used to just absolutely loathe this club. Ian Cole, 1 goal, 6 assists, former Minnesota Wild, of course, defenseman, and Soucy's out for, he's missed a lot of time. The other Elias Lindholm. No, this is Elias Lindholm. What am I talking about? I'm such an idiot. I remember the trade happened. I talked about it last week. 2 goals, 1 assist in the 5 games he's been there so far. So the rich get richer, as they say. The rich get richer. Vancouver has a shot to win the Stanley Cup this year, with a goalie like Thatcher Demko with 5 shutouts, goals against average of 92 basically, and save percentage of 92, goals against average of 244, and Casey DeSmith, who's a pain in the butt, 2.74. He's a nice backup. Got a shutout not too long ago. I believe he shut us out. That was the shutout. Yep. A save percentage of about 90 and a half, basically. 906, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Vancouver will beat the Minnesota Wild. Final score of 2-1. Unfortunately, the most likely guy to score in the game will be Joel Eriksson Ek. Joel Eriksson Ek will score for Minnesota, but a 2-1 loss to the Vancouver Schmucks. No, they're better than Schmucks at this point, I'd have to say. And then the Winnipeg Jets. I don't know. That's not an easy matchup either. Sometimes the Wild play great against this team, and sometimes they don't. It's kind of like depends on year in and year out. I do believe Minnesota's played well against Winnipeg this year, though. No, they're not. Wrong, Joey. Wrong. That was last year, Joey. Yeah. 4-2 loss in Winnipeg on December 30th, and a 3-2 loss to Winnipeg on New Year's Eve. Happy New Year, everybody. Tuesday, Feb 20th. Is this one. That'll be the wrap-up for this week, of course. And this one's actually at 7 o'clock. It's not an afternoon game or anything. And then there is an afternoon game, Saturday, April the 6th. Maybe things will be a little bit greener. We'll see. Maybe. Probably not too green on April 6th, but maybe not as white as they are at this second that I'm staring outside. We haven't had a whole lot of white this year. This is about as white as it's been. Most of the snowfalls we've had were probably not tall enough to cover the grass completely that we've had this year. I think there was like maybe back-to-back snowfalls that helped do it for a little bit. Off topic. I talked about the weather for about 20 seconds. Hopefully that's okay with everyone. Winnipeg Jets 3-2 in their last 5. They had lost 3 in a row. Now they've won 2 in a row. Toronto 4-2 loss. Pittsburgh 3-0 loss. Philadelphia 4-1 loss, and a Pennsylvania 2-step 7-1. Yuck. Pittsburgh win in Winnipeg. in Winnipeg, a 2-1, and then a 1-0 win over the awesome San Jose Sharks. 1-0 win. 1-0. Happy Valentine's Day, honey. He had to sit and watch a 1-0 game with me. Will you? No, maybe I shouldn't ask that right now. Sorry about that. Well, at least we won. Connor Hellebuck might get the Venza Trophy this year. 2.13 goals against average, 3 shutouts. Crazy consistent, 25-10. It's his win-loss record, 92.6 save percentage. And then you go to Brosseau. Holy Mother of Moses, Sacre Bleu, 7-4 record, 2.22 goals against average. That's your backup. Wow. 92% save percentage and no shutouts. I mean, that is consistent. To have a goals against average of 2.22 with no shutouts and a save percentage of 92 with no shutouts. I said it about 50 times because that's an incredible stat. So, the Wild lose. Yeah, the Wild lose. We better beat Buffalo, man. you better beat Buffalo. But at the same time, I know I'm with all of you thinking, get the draft pick, what the hell, you know? Keep on losing, what the hell, hello Johnny Manziel, you know, it was an old song. Yeah, it's kind of like that, though. Yeah, I know. It's just still, it's like, maybe I'm just thinking like Bill Guerin, get the win, you know, or like the players and such. So like for the players' sake, you better beat Buffalo. For us, draft pick sake, go ahead and lose them all. I don't know. It is what it is. It was a fun week this past week, though. So if maybe this is a playoff team and we're going to do something, then you better at least beat Buffalo. Bottom line, Scheffler with 43 points in 45 games, 15 goals, 28 assists. Ehlers, who's been all over the place, had a good start to the season, has dropped off the face of the earth. 16 goals and 20 assists. Still not bad numbers, but yeah. Cole Perfetti, who came in the same draft as Marco Rossi, 14 goals, 16 assists. Slightly ahead of Rossi. Not that far, honestly. So, former Minnesota Wild watch, Nino Niederreiter, in 51 games with 13 goals, 13 assists, 26 points. Sounds about like Nino Niederreiter, but of course scored against us in extremely frustrating fashion and helped the Wild lose to Winnipeg around New Year's Eve there. So, yay, that was wonderful. I loved it. 2-1 loss to Vancouver, or Winnipeg in this case. Another 2-1 loss in this case. Maybe 3-2, whatever. But the most likely guy to score in this game, I guess, will be Jonas Brodin. He's going to get another goal. Since, what the heck? Jonas Brodin will get another goal. It'll be somebody like that, or Jake Middleton. It's going to be one of those two, or Faber, whatever. Let's go with Brodin now, since he's on a tear. He's got like 3 goals or something now, man. He's on a tear. I know, but it's fun, though. But unfortunately, a 3-2 loss. These are really, 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 really tough matchups. So it's not like I'm just coming up here being negative. And at the same time, you know, I mean, is this a playoff team? I don't know. I really don't know. It's hard to say. So with that, we're going to look at the prospects as soon as possible here. We're moving right on to the prospects, if humanly possible. Look at the guys overseas, of course, starting off with Liam Ogren. Again, the Swedish Hockey League, 20 years of age. Obviously recovered from a shoulder injury earlier in the year. Yes, you know that already. 16 games now, 6 goals and 2 assists. So actually a pretty good week this past week. Let's give him some credit. 6 goals, 2 assists. He's now at 8 total points in the Swedish Hockey League, but unfortunately that is only half a point a game thus far on the season. And yes, he missed 1,000 games and all that, but he was captain of his team in the World Junior Classics. Urafu didn't even participate, which is weird, but that's how things go. Russia's funny and strange and all that stuff, and obviously it's, you know, it's one of those parts of the world right now. We'll just leave it at that. The KHL, 56 games on the season now, 21 goals and 26 assists. His assist numbers are moving up again, which were lower earlier in the year. 47 points in 56 games. He's on pace for 52 points in 62 games. So apparently their season's not much longer, and we'll see how that turns out. We'll get to see who's Nadinov maybe at some point as well, possibly coming to North America as that contract's about to come to an end. Pretty exciting, to say the least. But Danilo Yurov, in my opinion, right now is the number 1 prospect in the Minnesota Wild grapevine and all that good stuff. He is the number 1 prospect. Jesper Volsteed is number 2 as far as I'm concerned. We'll look at Huznadinov real quick. Obviously, again, is he going to be with the Minnesota Wild sooner than later? Yep, I mean, quite possibly, and there might be some kind of a trade coming in order to help that happen. What is going on here? Oh, I just love these ads that take up the whole screen. It's really helpful. Thank you. It's doing it again. Oh, screw you. This is, that's bullcrap. So we'll just move on from that, unfortunately. But Huznadinov, of course, again, hopefully is coming to North America in the not-too-distant future. So that's kind of how we're standing with that. Huznadinov, I apologize. Just getting stuff popping up on me here, and it's causing havoc. Yep, he was in the same draft as Marco Rossi on the season, but yeah, he's at 17 points in Sochi. 6 goals and 11 assists, 17 total points. But again, obviously he provides more energy and such. And yes, his minutes have been limited because they don't care. Like, you're leaving anyway, bleep you, and I think it's dumb, but welcome to pro sports, I guess, one way or another. Welcome to Russia. Iowa, again, kind of an up and down like they've been all year, but Volstead, at least the numbers have been getting better. That'd be, a lot of you know him as Wallstead. I guess it's Volstead, but now we're hearing Wallstead again, or Volstead, pardon me. That's been consistent. The V, 2.79 goals against average, so again, better than last week. Slightly better than last week, only 0.04 difference, but 14 wins and 11 losses, save percentage of 90.7. So he certainly stepped up, or he certainly improved after getting shelled a bit. Sammy Walker had an awesome week. He was the player of the week in M&W Prospects / Young Guns. Awesome week, 9 goals, 20 assists now with 29 points. Sammy Walker definitely moving up. He's now number 2 on the team in scoring, only behind Nicholas Patan. Good for him. Fogarty's been solid all year, but he's 30 years of age, unfortunately. Carson Lambos is the leading scoring defenseman of the Iowa Wild, but he's been there all year for the most part. I think he's been there all year. Age of 20 from Winnipeg, Manitoba, of course. Caden Bankier in only 24 games with 10 points. Good for him. Damon Hunt had his 9th assist just this past week. Now 10 points in the AHL in only 25 games. So he is definitely the overall best defenseman in Iowa right now. I'd have to say, in O'Rourke, also getting his 10th point this past week with a goal, his 3rd goal of the season. Good for him. Yes, absolutely good for him. Mason Shaw had 3 assists in a game not too long ago. Really cool. Now with 4 goals and 3 assists in only 9 games. 7 points for Mason Shaw, recovering from injury. Michael Milne, I guess I kept calling it Milne. Is it Milne or Milne? I don't know. But it's my apologies. Obviously a really good skater. His speed is definitely a factor. And people have been talking about him like he could be a real prospect for Minnesota. Not Iowa, but Minnesota. So we'll see. He's only 20 years of age, from Abbotsford, British Columbia. David Spacek from Columbus, Ohio, but he's Czech. So he's Czech. Yeah, it's his father, Papa Spacek, who was with the Columbus Blue Jackets. That's why. So 35 games, 2 goals, 4 assists for Spacek, and he's only a -4, which again is a lot better than -22 for O'Rourke and -24 for Simon Johansson. So that's got to mean something. It's got to mean something. Spacek is doing something right. He's not exactly, tearing it up in the offensive numbers at the moment, but he's super duper young, super raw, and we'll see. I think he's a Minnesota Wild prospect, like a real one. So we'll see what happens. Beckman has not been seeing action because the two the Italianos, the Mafia guys, Lucchini and Walker, Lucchini and Letteri, you're not going to be playing Beckman. John, Mr. Hynes, you ain't playing Beckman. You ain't playing Beckman, you understand? That's all we got to tell you. So that's kind of what's been going on. Unfortunately for Beckman, not getting ice time despite being up in the National Hockey League. So because, those guys are telling him, don't even think about it. Don't even think about it, okay? So that's pretty much what's been going on, unfortunately, with Beckman. Lucchini, yep. I apologize. I don't know. I like to do that kind of stuff. Jack McBain. I don't want to think about him anymore. So Vladislav Firstov, watch. Is he ever going to play for the Wild? I guess you never know. 34 points. That's actually not bad, But again, you're off is you're off, and he's younger. 62 games in the KHL for the Torpedo. I love that. 17 goals, 17 assists. But in 62 games, that's 34 points. It's nothing bad, but it's not blowing anybody's socks off either. Pavel Novak, again, recovered from cancer from a year ago in 21 games for the Iowa Heartlanders with 11 points, 7 goals, and 4 assists for the Iowa Heartlanders. Nate Benoit, Mr. 1 point a year. No, I'm just kidding. So far, I guess, unfortunately. 13 games for North Dakota. That is the University of North Dakota with 1 point. Unfortunately, on the season, he's already 21. Bummer, man. Bummer. Kyle Mostas. Yep, he's been with the Iowa Heartlanders and hitting a couple homers, I guess, and raising that batting average. 2 goals and 5 assists for 7 points in 12 games so far for the Heartlanders. Was with Iowa Wild not too long ago, but he's been in the Heartlanders because they need him to get his batting average up, you know. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Jack Pert now at double-digit points. Congratulations. 3 goals, 7 assists, 28 games for the ever-dangerous St. Cloud State Huskies. Go Gophers, that's all I'm going to say. So, yes, we're rodents. But I'd rather be rodents with 5 national championships instead of 0. Anyhow, that was mean, wasn't it? That was just awful. Petrovsky, 40 points on the season. He's a center. He is ahead of last season, so good for him, but only slightly. Definitely had a higher assist total than last year in terms of like projection and all of that. So he's played 21 less games than last year so far. So obviously time's still moving in the OHL there. 13 goals, 27 assists for 40 points for Petrovsky. Ryan Healy, Mr. Harvard himself. Again, he is a defenseman, and he's only 19, and he's playing for a major university called Harvard. They're not necessarily a national threat, but they're kind of lurking. They're not going to make the tournament, though. 8 goals, 12 assists in 23 games. It's pretty damn good. I mean, what a giant step forward. The only major complaint, though, is he went from a -1 last year to a -23 this year. What the hell? So that's a little weird. But certainly his offense has picked up. But, man, with that many more points and you're -23, so I don't know. They just must really suck there, unfortunately. So that's kind of how it goes sometimes. Lorenz with Denver Pioneers, of course, 17 points. So, yes, ahead of last year's pace, but that's not saying much. He had 9 points in 37 games last year. 8 goals, 9 assists. That's not bad, but, it's not dominating. Kind of third line-ish role there. And on the University of Denver, but still only 19 years of age. So, and he's a +12 on the year. That's pretty good. He's doing something right. Let me tell you, he's doing something right if he's a +12. Hunter Hitz, yes, sir. 51 games, 21 goals, which is ahead of last year. 35 assists, which is ahead of last year, but of course, 9 more games for 56 points. I can't say he's blowing anybody's socks off. So, and it is in the OHL for the Barry. It's in the OHL. He's not with Barry anymore. Jimmy Clark for the Gophers, who had an awesome weekend. Go Gophers for sure. We're moving up in the rankings, which obviously feels great. Jimmy Clark, 9 points, though. He didn't factor in the scoring, but of course, always kind of lurking around and playing defense as well. So at least you have a bit of that from Jimmy Clark. Kalim Parker, 31 points in 46 games for the Moose Jaw Warriors. Good for him, I suppose. He's a defenseman, by the way, playing for the University of Minnesota Duluth. 14 points, 13 assists in 27 games for Duluth. Riley Height with his 900 assists, with 60 now on the year. He's on pace for like a record, I believe, for the league, for the WHL. That is in only 50 games, 87 total points with 60. That's right, 60 assists. Definitely the playmaker, and go Riley Height. Nice to see what he's been doing. And for the record, as I'm gazing around really quick, the Gophers are eighth, at least as of February 11th, which is pretty recently. Ranked eighth in the country. They did not move up or down. Unfortunately, they were eighth last week, so bummer. After kind of sort of beating Wisconsin. Kumpalainen, 42 games, 40 points, 22 goals, and 18 assists. That sounds very familiar. Charlie Stramel, and that sounds familiar as well. 7 points. 24 games now, 7 points. 3 goals, 4 assists. It's not over yet. That's the good part. It's not over yet. Whatever. This person's not singing. We'll just leave that where that is. I don't know, because everybody gets offended every time you sneeze in this day and age, so I'm not going to go there. With that said, again, some of the prospects making major steps forward. Others just kind of running in place, unfortunately, but that's kind of how it goes. I mean, welcome to sports. Some guys make it, some guys don't. That's how it is. I think you already figured that out way before I did. With that said, we'll take a quick break and get to the wonderful, entertaining fan interaction segment. And we are back here on Brave the Wild, segment number 3. Time to look at fan interaction, if humanly possible here. I don't know what it's doing. It's refreshing. So at Brave the Wild is the X or Twitter account. So always appreciate that in a lot of ways. We had a very recent, recent poll here from Derek Felska of the Crease podcast. Of course, Crease and Assist, at Crease and Assist, Derek Felska coming in out of Western Wisconsin. They do a great job there on their show. He asked a poll saying, how important is it for the Minnesota Wild that the Iowa Wild have success? Example, make the playoffs in advance beyond the first round or further. There's very important / crucial, somewhat important, not that important, and then wait, Iowa who? Yeah, who would put that? Just somebody joking around, I'm guessing. I did put very important. I did, because I think the success of the Iowa Wild is important, and I know maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I should have put somewhat important. That's what's winning with 2 days left, 43%, whereas very crucial and not that important are tied, so that's kind of funny. Despite the fact they have quite a few votes, somehow there's a tie, like exactly a tie. That's kind of crazy how that can happen. But I don't know. I'm kind of in between very important and somewhat important. But I just say generally it's important because obviously if your AHL team's doing well, especially if it's prospects that are kind of like leading the cause, so to speak, for that team, like leading the surge, they're like the main reason why the team's playing well. Well, it's extremely encouraging for the future of the franchise. Plus, it also gives players playoff success. Unfortunately, the Houston Oilers, or Arrows, back in the day, had major success under Mike Yeo, and a lot of those players did not translate to much playoff success in Minnesota, though at least they did get out of the first round. So we'll be talking about Mike Yeo again in a little bit here because of that playoff success. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. That was a good poll for sure. I was asking if there's any questions or anything. I just want to make sure something. Okay, yeah. I'm going to go back. So, okay, I'll always put hashtag BDWMN. That way we can keep things fairly organized. I just like it that way. I think it's a little better. So we open things up with Jay Bushy. Great to hear from you, Jay, always. What do you think of this post All-Star break winning streak, sustainable or not? I was like, wait a minute. Okay, All-Star break, duh. So, probably not. Probably not. I mean, especially considering, like, look at who we're going to play this week. Great week this past week. But put it this way: if they win, if they win like 2 or 3 of these games this week, I think it'd be insanely impressive. And then maybe we're onto some kind of a, making the playoffs, and then hopefully finally do something when we get there. But the Wild do have players to get this team to the postseason. It's just, can they ever do anything to advance? Again, it would take the younger guys like the Fabers, the Boldies, and such to get this team to that next level. That's really the whole hope at the end of the day. Otherwise, running into a team like the Stars or the whoever, it's just kind of like it figures. If you run into a team like the Stars or the Colorado Avalanche, I mean, your chances of getting anywhere are slim to none, unfortunately. Like Edmonton Oilers, probably, too. So the Derek Felska lightning round has returned. Yeah, let's get on to that lightning round, doggone it. What member of the Minnesota Wild would you give a Valentine's Day card to this season? Whose game do you love the most this season? Whose game do I love the most this season? Well, there's a number of players. Overall game do I love the most this season? It's like you want to say Faber like 10 out of 10 times. It's either him or Jules Jeanette. It's got to be one of those two. I think for the sake of, like, if I want to give somebody a Valentine's Day card because they've kind of earned it over the course of time and all that. They've really grown on you. It's Jule Eriksson Ek. Obviously, like an immediate crush, so to speak. An immediate crush is definitely Brock Faber. You could say, I'll go with the long-term type of thing. I've kind of become that. Like this love at first sight stuff, I don't believe in that. It's crush at first sight. All of you that say love at first sight, it's a crush. Sorry, it is. So like Brock Faber is a crush, and it's going to turn into love later. I guess you could say let him have another year or two, so to speak, where Jule Eriksson Ek's grown on me, so he's going to get that Valentine's Day card, and I absolutely love his game. Absolutely love his game. He's a Selke Trophy candidate. Year in and year out, he's become better and better at it, and his offense is fantastic. When you look at, he's projected to score 37 goals this year, 37, and just a few more assists. Maybe if he kind of picks up the pace with those at the same time, he'll get to 70 points this year. If God forbid, well, God willing, he stays healthy is a better way to say, not God forbid. Morty says either Faber or Rossi. Yep, that's pretty cool too. Yep, hey, nice to hear from you, Morty. At North Star fan or Mort. Yep, North Star fan. Well, yeah. If he doesn't like the name Morty, well, he puts it on there. So yeah, no, I'm just guessing. Like some people like to be called Morty or Mort. It depends. So just in case you want to respond to me on that one. So obviously I'm not making fun of anybody here. That's the last thing I want to do. I'm in no position to make fun of anybody. Derek Felska says, next one, Ottawa's Ridley Gregg stirred up some trouble by blasting a slap shot from close range into an empty net, which drew the ire of the Toronto's Morgan Riley, who cross-checked him in the head shortly thereafter. Lots of opinions. What's your opinion on this? I'd say, yeah. It's, yep, I kind of agree with what Morty's saying. He says, it was a bit bush league to do the slap shot, but I didn't know how heated the game was. If it was a high-spirited game, I would understand it more. What does Derek respond with? Oh, no, Emin Johan says, that's always a big rivalry, but both were unnecessary. Act like you've been there, and don't be a effing donkey when you're getting your butts kicked all over the ice. Yep, I mean, I've never been a fan of rubbing it in people's face. I've never been a fan, like that certain team that won the Super Bowl this past week, and especially their tight end. I cannot stand him. I can't stand him because he's rubbing it in people's face. I'm not a big fan of the quarterback either. His skills are fantastic. He's a top 4 or 5 quarterback of all time. Over the years, I've liked him less and less for just, I don't know. I think the arrogance level's gotten too high. And I don't know, when people rub it in, it always bugs me. So that would be my overall take of it. Act like you've been there. Act like you've been there, and both teams should act like they've been there. Both players should act like they've been there in a lot of ways. How did Jule Eriksson Ek score his empty net goal versus the Vegas Golden Knights? It was like he just kind of got closer and closer and made sure he just kind of got close enough and then just kind of slid it in. So that's the guy I'd give the Valentine's card versus the other guy I'd want to cross-check in the back of the neck. Yep, in the heat of the game, yep, I'd get frustrated. I probably wouldn't cross-check a guy. I'd think about it and then not do it. Like, I'd think about doing all kinds of stuff, like whacking him in the face or something with a stick. But I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't follow through on it, that type of thing. So it's kind of a little bit of both. But, again, I think rubbing it in is BS. I've never been a fan of it at all. I hated the way Travis Kelce acted in that Baltimore game. I hated the big mouth he had last year after they beat the Cincinnati Bengals. I wanted to cross-check him in the face. Not the back of the head, but the face. Son of a biscuit. Fill in the blank. The Minnesota Wild, this is the next one from Derek. The Minnesota Wild demonstrated a whole new level. Yes, they did. In a 5-3 win over Vegas. Where has this team been, and does it indicate they were sandbagging it a bit prior to the All-Star break in the Chicago game? I think so. I think so. And I don't know why. It's weird. Especially, yeah, that Chicago game was a sandbag and all in itself. And I don't know why they're sandbagging, ultimately. Sometimes it's limited talent. Sometimes it's this guy's hurt, and they just want to get out of here. They're tired, blah, blah, blah. And then kind of that, that time off hangover. Not meaning you've been drinking a lot, but I don't know. Some people do. I don't. But I have like time off hangover, even though I'm not this big, heavy drinker. type of thing. Like just the first day back from at work. Now, then again, if my job was a National Hockey League player, it's a little different than going and working at a stinking factory and seeing a lot of people you don't want to see over and over and over again. Oh, not them again. God, not them again, please. So, yes, it's a different vibe. Even though like hockey's tough and it's a grind, it's still like something you probably dreamed of your whole life growing up. Working at a factory is not something anybody dreams of ever, unless unless you're higher than a regular factory worker. Yep. So there's that. So there's really no excuse at the end of the day at all for that. Okay. Next. Sorry. Here we go. If the Minnesota Wild ever created a 16-bit style beat 'em up game, which 4 players all time with the Wild apparently would you put in as its protagonist combatants? Which 16-bit beat 'em up would you model it after? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 1989, the original one. Yep. I mean, if there's any beat 'em up I want, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the one that came out in 1989, the real arcade game, the real one. Not the NES version. First of all, so if players like beat 'em up, obviously, I'm not a gigantic fan of Marcus Foligno necessarily, but he would be one of the best in that game for like beat 'em up. Yes, yes, he would be in it. Marcus Foligno's in it for sure. Obviously, Derek Bugard, God rest his soul. Derek Bugard has to be in that. But then there's other players that are skilled and tough. Like Foligno's kind of skilled and tough. Trying to think of some. I could say either like DeHame, Eck, guys like that. I think Eriksson Ek could be in it, because he's obviously kind of getting in people's faces a lot. He's not afraid of anybody. So Eriksson Ek, so you got Foligno. So like say it's the 4 Turtles, right? Yeah, like you said, 4 players. Like right there, it's perfect. Because I wouldn't be surprised if Derek was thinking about Turtles, the arcade game as well. Or maybe, I don't know, it could be anything like Double Dragon, I suppose. And there's only 2 guys in that one. Billy and Jimmy, right? Bimmy and Jimmy. Double Dragon 3. Double Dragon. So I believe I said 4. So DeHame would be 4. Brandon DeHame has to be number 4. So either him or Middleton. Let's say Middleton. Yeah, Middleton is a tough son of a gun. So I'll have Foligno. Yeah. Foligno, Bugard, Middleton, and Joel Eriksson Ek would be my Ninja Turtles out there, basically battling against Shredder, which is like eventually like Sidney Crosby or something is like Shredder. or like, yeah. And it could be all-time players, like you said. Yeah, like Bugard. He's no longer with us. So, but I mean, yeah, he'd be an incredible beat-em-up guy since it's just a video game. So next one, this is the last of the lightning round. Rank order the best of head coaches. Yeah, rank in order the best head coaches from past to present for the Minnesota Wild. Number 1, Jacques Lemaire. Number 2, Bruce Boudreau. Number 3, Dean Evison for now, because obviously the regular season success. Oh, God. You know what? Number 3, Mike Yeo, because of the playoff success. Number 3, Mike Yeo. Number 3, Mike Yeo. Number 4, Dean Evison. Number 5, John Hynes so far. John Hynes so far, or George Shetty. They're kind of tied. So both of the Boston Johnnies. Hey, John coming from Boston. You got 2 Boston guys from, named John. You got John Hynes and John Torchetti. You got those 2 guys from Boston. They're both good coaches, passably, but you got to give them a little more time. At least Hynes will have a little more time to coach a little bit, I guess. So we'll have to wait and see how that turns out. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But we'll say Hynes is probably going to do better long term. So at the end of the day, the worst coach in Minnesota Wild history is none other than, and I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. I don't think I am. Is Todd Richards. Yeah, I mean, just there's nothing to talk about that was successful. There's no success with Todd Richards. He was below average at best. He had a couple of moments with Columbus, I suppose, but overall, I think Todd Richards is the worst coach in Wild history. So number 1, Jacques. Number 2, Bruce Boudreau. Number 3, Mike Yeo, because of the playoff success. Sorry, Mike Yeo, yeah. Number 4, Dean Evison. Great regular season success. But didn't do anything within the playoffs. Sorry. Number 5, the Johns. And number 6, the Todd. The Todd is the worst. The weakest coach in Wild history is Todd Richards. Just like, I don't know, like you went from like maybe too much focus on special teams in some people's opinions from Mr. What's his name, Jacques Lemaire, to zero special teams whatsoever with Todd Richards. It was like a polar opposite. And if you're going polar opposite with Jacques Lemaire, you're probably not real good. Scott Forner will wrap this sucker up. Looks like there's a response to his as well. He says, the Wild are going to miss the playoffs like 1 point draft 16th, aren't they? You know what? That sounds about right. Like when the Vikings finished 8-9. Oh, we just had to win that last game. You know, Mike Zimmer's last game against the Bears. Oh, we had to win that game. It was like it was life or death. It meant so much. Wait, no, it didn't mean a damn thing, and it was stupid. Yeah, which that sounds about right, Scott. I feel you on that one. I really do. Morty says no. We need to tank. Derek says, I agree this sense of urgency should have happened a month ago. But I suppose now they're going to scratch and claw like crazy to be completely exhausted if they manage to earn a wild card spot. Yep, and then when they're completely tired, they're dead. Morty will say, missing the play after getting dumped in the first round and drafting outside of the top 10 gets you a third-line player only if you're lucky, yeah. Inside the top 10, you're looking for a possible second-line player. Derek says, I agree. And it goes, yeah, it's not too much. He says, I agree. It doesn't seem like a good trade-off because it's simply it's simply more of what they've been doing for so long. Yeah, absolutely. Morty says, they have done very well drafting late and having people drop in their lap, but hoping for that isn't a good strategy. I despise teams in all sports that purposely and obviously tank to get a top pick. My thought is, if you aren't going anywhere at this point, why hurt yourselves? And Johan says, I'm not disagreeing with this assessment. I'm just explaining why it's hard, especially at this late point. Yep. Good conversation there, guys. Good conversation. I know I don't jump in much, but usually when people are tweeting each other is when I'm probably stuck at, busy at work, and now it's like becoming like a prison where, like Twitter doesn't even work on the Wi-Fi, and the building's so freaking thick, and then there's no boosters for, cell connection. I can't even get on. It's ridiculous. So that's why it's like I disappear from the planet, basically, when it comes to like Twitter and such, once I'm at work. It's, yeah, it's head scratching at best. I mean, let me tell you, I better bite my lip. It's, yeah. Well, I think I've gotten that dirty laundry aired out a bit, so apologize for that if that was inappropriate. With that said, thank you so much. What wonderful interaction you guys brought. Really, Derek, Scott, Morty, Johan, that was awesome. Thank you. Obviously, Jay Butchie, of course. Jay Butchie, awesome. Love hearing from you every week. That is great. With that said, shout outs to MNW Prospects / Young Guns. Appreciate you very much. Absolutely. It's always fun to look at the prospect of the week, and way to go Walker, Sammy Walker this past week. Obviously shout outs to Minnesota Wild Global, Minnesota Wild Nation. Awesome. Awesome job. Awesome pages out there. Really appreciate you. Hope all of you have a wonderful week. We'll see how the Minnesota Wild do, and I guess things are going to play out the way they're going to play out in the next few weeks, and we'll get a better idea where things are going to go. Are the Wild going to sell? Are the Wild going to buy? I don't know. If you buy, it better not be for much. Yeah, it better not be. So it would have to be like a Nyquist type of a move, I think, something like that, where it's like very inexpensive, and then holy cow, he's actually pretty good. But short term, if you really think you're going to do something. But like Derek said, they're going to work their ass off and then squeeze in and then get beat in the first round. Yep, that sounds about right, because they'll be too tired or this or that. So with that said, have yourself a wonderful week, and we'll be back to review these West Coast games coming up.